your mind.
Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday, the 23rd of March, 2014. I think it is, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think
the 24th of March?
No.
Yeah, we're in studio too. Alan is looking at my old PC where it is the 24th of March. No, over on this side of the room it's the 30th of March.
It's the 30th of March.
Mother's Day.
We are in studio too, and so there might be a slight difference on our audio, but all good by the sound this end anyway. But good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind. As Steve just said, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I'm sure all the flowers went out and all the chocolates and everything else. I hope you did the same with your mum.
Yes, I took care of that business yesterday. I've just had to increase the audio ever so slightly there. It was a little bit on the low side. So hopefully that's okay. Yeah, I done it yesterday. Okay,
I did my bit as well and made a phone call, as you do, the obligatory phone call. Okay, before we go into communications, our guest tonight, the plan of attack was to have Tony Z and guests Simon Parks and Miles Johnston. But we don't know where Tony is and we don't know where Simon is. And we are in touch with Miles and we're going to aim to try and get Miles in on, get him in on the show about 7:15 or so. And if Tony and Simon turn up, maybe they didn't actually sort out their clocks and they actually think it's 6 o'clock now rather than 7 o'clock and that they have an hour to go. Maybe that's what the problem is. But anyway, we'll see. If they come online, then we'll get them in. We have a few things to go through anyway, but before we do that, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Okay, communication channels, Mary, please.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
046 927 1212 is the magic number, but it's not going to work this evening because we are in studio too. But you can leave a message on the chat room, that is oymradio.com, and hit the click here for the live chat button. You can log in with your real name or a makey-uppy one, as I say. We're also going to be monitoring the People's Internet Radio chat room as well, so anyone who has questions, you can post them on either of the chat rooms there, and I shall copy them and paste them and ask them to our guests. Alan.
Right, Steve, well, you're going to tell us all about John Wilson, aren't you?
Well, I'm not going to tell you all about John Wilson. I don't know everything there is to know about John Wilson, but I do know that after John Wilson, the Garda Whistleblower, was on the Ben Gilroy show, for anyone who hasn't heard, we mentioned that last week. Ben has a new TV channel up and running. But after John Wilson was on the Ben Gilroy show, we heard that the Garda Commissioner, for those not in the Republic of Ireland, the Garda or the Gardaí will be the equivalent of the Police Commissioner. So the Garda Commissioner has resigned, exposing the corruption. No secret society throughout history has lasted when they've been exposed. We need whistleblowers, and that's kind of a little secret society thing. That's kind of a JFK. I believe he said that back in the 1960s. But yeah, so whistleblower on Ben Gilroy and Garda Commissioner resigns. It's all over the news. It's all over the radio at the moment, and it's another can of worms. But I don't know. What way is it going to go in the end?
Don't know. Crown Copyright on the chat said the audio's a bit choppy. I'm not too sure what we can do about that, but we'll see what we can do.
Oh.
But definitely, we need more whistleblowers. Alan Shatter, I mean, he has to go. And we've all said it. For someone like him to be in charge of the police and in charge of the defence forces as well, it's too much power. So he has to go, and I think everybody's saying the same thing. So he's another one on the list that should definitely go with Callan and get somebody new in, somebody fresh, not one of the clicky crowd, but somebody from outside maybe who can have a nice fresh perspective on what's going on and sort it out. Because also I believe that Mick Wallace and Claire Daly have a Justice for All website, and as all the people that have been mistreated by the guards or cases that have been sidetracked or cases that didn't go to court or guards that have got away with lying, and all that's being exposed. They have masses and masses of affidavits apparently going in now. So, it's not a good day for the Gardaí, I'm afraid, but there you go. I mean, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. We want transparency and we want good guards. We know there's a handful of guards out there who will do the job and do the job rightly, like John Wilson, and who went and reported what was going on. But at the end of the day, You know, I mean, he's one man. We need a lot more guards coming out and saying what's going on to expose the corruption that's going on in the guards, and let's hope that more of that happens. Now, during the week, you know, normally we catch up on things during the week, and one of the things I came across during the week was that cocaine-filled condoms were seized by the German customs. They were heading to the Vatican. And obviously we have two issues there. One is the cocaine, obviously, and the other one is the condoms, because the church obviously doesn't approve of both of them, apparently. And basically there was a package that was addressed to the Vatican Postal Office, meaning that any of the city-state's 800 residents could have collected it. So they didn't have nobody actually collected the package. So they couldn't actually arrest anybody for picking up the package. But why would cocaine-filled condoms be on their way to the Vatican if that's supposed to be a religious city, a religious, well, country, really, if you look at the law the way it is? The Vatican's a country in a country. And very strange that they have them going out there. I'm sure there's certain excuses. I'm sure there's some papal excuses going to be coming out soon as to why it was shipped, or they'll say that was somebody trying to defame them or set them up or something like that. But we know they're not squeaky clean, you know, from stories we've heard before.
Yeah, well, just out of curiosity, I mean, what's cocaine going? You know, what's that going to the Vatican for? And more concerning, what are they going to do with the condoms?
Yeah, well,
I mean, look, you have to kind of wonder, what were they importing? Was it the cocaine or the condoms? Were they going to just use, you know, chuck the cocaine out and use the condoms?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Okay, you're going to tell us about wireless electricity, Steve?
Yes, I'm going to tell you about wireless electricity. Seemingly, this is an article that was on CNN News. It sounds good until you find out it'll be working on the same frequencies as mobile or even mobile or cellular phones and wireless Wi-Fi routers. So yeah, wireless electricity, I think this has been kind of going around for a while. Alan and I seen a documentary, well, not documentary, but a news article on it a couple of years back, where somebody was demonstrating a wireless TV. There was some contraption in the wall, and they kind of just sent out the power wirelessly. So no matter where you were in the home, you could, no matter what the device was, there was always going to be power. And it actually sounds great in theory, but when you kind of look at the science behind it, it's just another device that's going to be, again, using the same Wi-Fi frequencies, the same harmful Wi-Fi frequencies that we've been kind of trying to fight against over here and other people throughout the world. So yeah, again, it's going to be like, you know, the Wi-Fi router and the handheld tablet. This will be introduced, it'll be rolled out, it'll be another one of these gadgets or gizmos that people will not be able to do without, like your Sky Plus box, you know, able to pause and rewind, live TV. It'll never be the same again. So once this rolls out, people will adapt to it. Like everything else, I reckon they will adapt to it so quickly that we're going to have an uphill struggle on our hands trying to fight it. But it's going to be on the same frequencies, as I mentioned, the Wi-Fi frequencies, and I can only imagine that to power wireless devices all over your home, I'd say it's going to be powerful. So it's going to be, you'd probably be better off sitting in the microwave oven and switching it on. Yeah,
definitely. And it just when the scientist, female scientist, was talking about it, and your man said, the interviewer said, "Is it safe?" Because she said, "Yes, it's on the same frequencies as your Wi-Fi mobile phones." And I went, okay, so she obviously didn't do her research, or she's been told to say that, or she doesn't really know about it. So bit of a concern there. We just had a communicate with Miles. We'll get him on shortly in about 7:15. We'll have a chat with Miles then. Okay, the other thing is about obviously the flight MH370, and apparently this has just been on the news. As we say, we don't know whether it's true or not, but apparently the Dutch intercepted flight 370 on its way to crash the nuclear summit. Apparently there's a summit of heads of governments in Belgium, I believe, and they caught this plane which was relabeled like a cargo plane. It says here, though they state no foul play was involved and claimed it was a cargo jet, it's not every day that a 777 airplane flies unidentified straight towards a nuclear summit where all the world's leaders are. And, you know, the people commented that they blew it, that Flight 370 has been found and stopped from crashing the nuclear summit, the same target everyone guessed it was destined for. Now, you've probably seen that on the alternative media, that the Dutch authorities has filed a false flag, and they're saying that it was the 777, same plane, could have been relabelled, repainted to different colours. Now, they are saying there's wreckage found as well. Now, I'm just curious as to what wreckage they found, because, you know, there's a lot of different theories as to whether MH370 did crash in the ocean or whether it landed on the island, Diego Garcia, which is a military island, US military island. So, I don't know. We'll find out eventually, I think, but I don't know when, so we'll have to just keep our eyes on the skies, our eye on the ball, and see what happens.
Oh, there, I'm back. But will we find out? That's the thing. I mean, you know as well as I do, there can be some massive elaborate cover-up, and they can do some elaborate cover-up in such a way that it'll make perfect sense. Everybody will believe it, you know. And once you're kind of going, no, there's proof to say that it veered off here, and it may have landed on that little island, which just happens to be a military base, you know. And there was a guy in the boat who said, yeah, he's seen it heading in that direction, you know. But it's again, it could be 9/11 all over again. You know, the NIST report after 9/11 was the official report. It was full of holes and inaccuracies, but people swallowed it hook, line and sinker. And I mean, I reckon the same will probably happen here. There's a lot of information going around the net, call it conspiracy theory if you like, but I mean, a lot of them is based on fact, so you're gonna, you know, it's conspiracy fact. Yeah. And you know, I don't think we'll ever find out what happened. I think there'll be a lot of highly educated people who will know in their heart and soul what happened based on events, but you know, there'll still be the naysayers, and then once the official report comes out, you know, that'll be it. It'll be game over, and then you'll be kind of going, oh, okay, what else was going on in the world while this was happening? You know. Exactly,
yeah, exactly. But we'll just see. I mean, maybe time will tell. We just have to give it time and see what happens. But how's your week?
Yeah, my week has been fine. Not too much in the line of excitement, to be totally honest with you. I've been paying passing attention to what's been going on with our politicians and Enda Kenny, and you know, this whole Garda whistleblower fiasco. And of course Mr. Alan Shatter. There's a lot going on, and I'm wondering what are we missing? While is this genuinely the excrement that's hit the fan, and all eyes are on the government, or is it a classic case of a sleight of hand? The government have already got this, like a game of chess. They already have the game won, if you like. They've already reached checkmate, but we haven't seen that yet. So therefore, they're going to play this out, you know, slowly, day by day, week by week. While there's something else. I don't know why I'm doing the hand movement, but there's something else going on over here, you know, that we're not seeing because we're concentrating on what's going on over here. Even though we're thinking, oh, that's it, Alan Sharp, he's got to go. The government's going to get their comeuppance now. But in reality, it's probably a case of, as I say, they already have it planned out, move by move by move. It'll probably play out in the end where nothing will happen, nobody will be taken to task, and we'll have missed something else, probably something very important getting signed into law while we were distracted watching something else over here. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I've been kind of watching that, paying, you know, kind of passing attention to it, but I still think it's a game, and you know, the government have it sewn up, and if we want to think for 1 minute that the government has slipped, you know, they've dropped the ball, they haven't dropped the ball. They're not that stupid. I think if we think they are, we're just codding ourselves. Anyway, there's my week in a nutshell. I know you have an exciting week, so how's your week?
Well, not exciting week, just a few things that I'll be doing, and I have done. During the week, I got one of them energy monitors, a Genie energy monitor, just to track the power usage in the house, because obviously we're always looking for ways to try and save money in any way we can. And I thought, well, I'm going to spend a few quid, get one of these energy monitors, and then go around and unplug everything and just check to see what power it's using. Now, the energy monitor I got was very good because it tells you the watts, the amps, the voltage, and you can allocate a cost to it per kilowatt hour as well. So it's all quite good. But I just kept it very basic. And an example was, like, the kettle I use is a 2.7 kilowatt kettle. But basically, you know, I'm thinking, well, maybe I could go and get a 1,000, you know, a 1 kilowatt kettle and save myself 1.7 kilowatts. Now, the 1,000 kilowatt might The 1 kilowatt, not 1,000 kilowatt, the 1 kilowatt, getting confused there with the kilowatt kettle.
1,000 kilowatts, I'd love to see that ESP bill.
Yeah, it has a label with Sellafields on the side. A 1 kilowatt kettle instead of a 2.7 kilowatt kettle. And, okay, it might take a little bit longer to boil, but all about saving. But what I'm planning to do during the week with the energy monitor, we talk about the light bulbs, the incandescent light bulbs, the CFL dangerous light bulbs, and the LEDs. Now, I got myself an LED light bulb, which is rated at 9.5 watts, and it's the equivalent to 60 watts. So I'm going to do a video during the week. I hope to do a video during the week if I have the time. And I'll put it up on OYM, up on our YouTube page. And I'm going to get 3 different types of bulbs, and I'm going to plug them in, show you the rating on the actual energy device, so you can see the power they're consuming. And then, you can see for yourself, whether it's worthwhile going which bulb to go for. But I can tell you now, definitely, hands down, the LED bulb which I got was brilliant. I mean, it's only 9.5 watts, but actually 60 watts. It's like a football stadium in my house now, because, the light is so bright with the LED. It's brilliant bulb. But I'll put the 3 of them up, because we always try and do our little myth buster, or we do a little bit of testing from OYM. Alan and Steve's myth busters. Yeah. And we'll put it up, and then you can see the 3 bulbs, and you can see the power they're taking, and you can see the light off them, and then you decide for yourself. But I mean, CFLs are dangerous anyway. Can
I just throw a spanner in the works here?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this, about the let's say a 3 kilowatt kettle and a 1 kilowatt kettle. If you have a 3 kilowatt kettle and it takes 60 seconds to boil, it takes 1 minute to boil at 3 kilowatts, and you have 1 kilowatt kettle and it takes 3 minutes to boil, you're using the same electricity though?
Well, this is the whole idea of getting an energy-saving device. And as soon as you plug it in, you switch on the kettle, and it gives you the time it takes to boil. And then you do the same thing with your other kettle just to see. It's all part of the testing.
What you should do is just get a magnifying glass, some sunshine, and a pot of water.
Well, it's only, I think, a 1 kilowatt kettle on Amazon is something like a tenner or something. So they're not, they're not expensive.
Or get get a 12-volt kettle.
Yeah,
and every time you want to make a cup of tea, go out and plug it into the cigarette lighter in the car.
Oh, a solar panel, which is coming in. Okay, the other thing on the list was, myself and the family were out yesterday, and they obviously wanted to go get something to eat. And of course, the mention of McD's was mentioned, and I hate the place, and the food is like eating cardboard. So I kind of persuaded them to go to Subway, where they had a kind of salad and bits and pieces, a little bit more healthier. So we went along anyway. And I noticed, as the girl was putting the roll together, there was no butter on the roll, or margarine or flour or whatever healthy, option you want to take. And I said to her, well, how come there's no butter on the roll? Oh, she said, it's bad for you. And I said, isn't that my choice? And she said, oh, it's the powers to be have decided that. So I thought, so now you go into a shop, you can't even get what you want. Where they, normally you turn around and say, would you like butter, do you not want butter? And you say yes or no. But now the powers to be in these businesses are deciding whether they give you the butter or not, or give you something or not, which I find is quite dictatorship, a bit of a dictatorship going on there. Didn't like that idea at all anyway. So we had to do it out butter, but, just something I observed. These little things coming into society where, don't even have a choice anymore. Very, very strange.
I'm sorry, that's disgraceful.
No, I know it's silly, right? I know it's silly. Yeah. But surely that should be my choice.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, most places you go to, if you're getting a sandwich, they say, would you like butter or mayonnaise?
Yeah.
So now this corporation is telling you, no, you're not having either.
Yeah.
Yeah, fat lump and in fact, you're not even having what you want a foot long. You're not having a foot long. You're having a 6-incher, and be glad of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, these little things I observe. I know it's not exactly in your order, but then again, if this is part and parcel of some of the services that the corporate companies are coming out, where they're not even going to give you a choice, and that does happen. Big time, it does happen in a lot of other companies and other things, which we'll get into another time.
But you're looking all the better for it anyway.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm looking that bit slimmer. I'm like, right, okay. And the other, on the same shopping trip, funny enough, and this is just me being on my soapbox, but I went into Penny's just to have a look at their jeans, because they're only €11, and as I'm poor like everybody else, we can't afford, quality jeans, so the cheapy ones have to do. But all the jeans in Penny's are all button flies. There's not one men's trousers with flies on them, like as a zip. It's all buttons. And I thought, whose idea was that? Is that the new fashion? Am I out of fashion now?
Yes.
Because, I mean, personally speaking, I hate button flies for obvious reasons, being a man. But
really,
yeah,
I actually
like them.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Although I hate standing at it looks kind of strange though if you're out in public and you're standing at a urinal and you're fiddling with your buttons. You know, it is going to be a bit of a worry. But no, I like them.
I'm old-fashioned. I'm just give me a fly, you know. Okay, listen, we're going to go off to a bit of music and we're going to get our guest on. We're going to get Miles Johnston on now shortly. So we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, I just throw that little song in there. I quite like it. It's Ray Stevens, The Streak. Anyway.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, right. The plan of attack for tonight, we're going to have Tony Zion from Synchronicity, Simon Parks and Miles Johnston. And unfortunately, we can't get in touch with Tony and Simon for whatever reason. But fair play to Miles, efficient as ever. Good evening, Miles. How are you doing? Tell us what's going on in your life anyway. What's happening?
It's getting fast and furious in that Bodnam Manor, the guys at Bodnam Manor have asked for, that's in Hertfordshire, not it's in Herefordshire, not Hertfordshire. God almighty. One of the problems about being a genius and modest with it is I'm slightly dyslexic, which means if you give me two opposites, I'll choose the wrong one. Bodnam Manor is a big, it's a fair-sized building in Bodnam, which is in basically Herefordshire, near Hereford, near Wales. And about 2 years ago, when the Amash thing was still actually sort of thinking if something was going to happen there, we had a nice get-together there, and we did shot some stuff out in the grounds of the manor. They are looking for gigs, and so the Basis Project is going to have its first sort of meet-up as such, sort of a conference on the last Sunday of April at Bodnam Manor. Now, this is a rural setting, and so everybody's can come in there, they can book ahead with the Bodnam Manor website, which you have to clue what it is, which helps. It's on my events page on the basisproject.org events section, and it's the 27th of April, I believe, and it's starting at 11 o'clock. Tony Topping is going to be giving a 2-hour thing there on remote viewing, and James Casbolt, aka Michael Prince, is going to have his first ever public talk and presentation. I think it's primarily just going to be him sort of talking, and then people can ask him questions. But this is the very first time he has ever decided to do this, because if anybody has been following the James Casbolt or Michael Prince series of events, hell on earth has happened as far as he's concerned, and there's been an absolute mess going up on Facebook and the internet and all sorts of things, and it's getting a bit complicated if you haven't already found out that it's complicated already.
Right, and what's happening? I mean, when I first seen the interview with James Casbolt, I have to say, on Michael Prince,
which one are you talking about?
The original one. I think the original one where it's in like a hotel room, and
No. That is about 7 years after the original one, which was in Truro College.
Okay.
And that was Basis 4.
Yeah.
The thing about James Casbolt is, maybe you have to do a sort of a join the dots here. James Casbolt came along and threw a few pebbles at Barry King's windows in Chelmsford, I think it is. In Essex, I think it's Chelmsford. And Barry King came down and said, "What the hell are you doing that for?" And Casbolt started to say the same kind of stuff that Barry King is talking about, in that he was actually in the labs at Peasmore in the Berkshire underground transhuman space where they'd be knocking off greys and other types of creatures, which is part of the transhumanization cyborg agenda, which the Germans were dealing with in World War II.
Okay.
And that's to do with soul hopping. That's to say, transferring souls into humans, but they were trying to do it into a sort of a cyborg, a cybotic robot called a programmable generated life form. So that this whole idea of soul transference, so that they have control over the reincarnation process, has been going on for a long time. And what they've been doing is they've been trying to keep these fifth race, the so-called, what Irwin calls the fifth race, they're trying to find various ways of hiding themselves within the structure of human-type beings so that they don't get filtered out by the natural, nature's natural laws of nature, which filter out abnormal creatures out of the existence here. You've got basically three shots and you're out, which is why if you artificially create a life form which doesn't conform to the natural laws of nature in this dimensional reality, whatever you want to call it, it'll basically not work and fail.
So where are we now, Miles, at the moment, with everything that's going on? We're supposed to be going through these energy changes and certain things happening.
They are happening, but it looks as if we're now beginning to suspect that this fifth race, or whatever you want to call it, because the use of terminologies, as soon as you use the race term, gets, everybody's, things up, prejudices start firing, with the programming people's programming starts activating. There's a possibility that what they may have done is create some kind of subspace time-space field, which we are now in, but it's unstable and it's not going to last too long. They've done that in order to try and generate another timeline which would allow these creatures to take us into a new domain and take us essentially all as their captive servants in whatever they're going to exist in. It's a bit like having a fish tank in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
You get all the fish tank, you get all the fish in the fish tank, and they can't get out. But and that's possibly what they've tried to do or plan to do.
Right.
But the word is that the Illuminati are desperate to clear 3 billion off the planet, and there are some indications that some pretty heavy things are going on in terms of the chemtrails. Certainly, I don't know if people have been noticing. There's a sort of a silver shine in the air. Now, I don't know whether it's happening where you guys are in Ireland, but if you notice that when the sun is shining through the atmosphere, you can see it shining through the atmosphere. That's the point, because it's being sort of reflected off a sort of a hazy sheen, like a satin, like a satin paint.
Yeah. We actually noticed that about 2 weeks ago, Miles. We were saying
it's sort of a haze, which isn't a heat haze. It isn't normal mist, foggy type stuff. It's got a sort of a shine off it, and you'll start seeing a certain spectral shine off it, like you would off at the top of a CD. That's these particles are putting in the atmosphere, which are nanites.
Okay, and the likes of people who are talking about, inverted commas, the event and this energy change from the galactic central sun. I mean, I take it this is still going to... This is going to take place and it's going to happen on...
Tuesday after lunch, this is all bollocks.
Right,
I've heard a lot of this stuff from this Galactic Federation about how the Galactic Federation and their great craft have channeled information to the underworld, and it was they who got the 777. They saved them.
Well, I wasn't...
There's this absolute twaddle brought out by your man Boyle.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, can we just say if we can avoid the language, Miles, because we have children listening in on the show as well. That's much appreciated if you can do that. But and I know you get passionate over things. It's actually nothing got to do with the Galactic Federation. I'm just kind of looking at what this person Cobra and a few other people are saying that that this energy is taking place. We've spoken to a few people about this, and this energy is taking place. It's nothing got to do with aliens or ET.
Where is it coming from? I mean,
well, apparently the Galactic Central Sun.
The Galactic Central Sun. It's twaddle.
Right. Okay.
I mean, the Galactic Central Sun. If there is a Galactic Central Sun, and there's probably several billion Galactic Central Suns and black holes and Lord knows what else. It's not going to happen at 1 o'clock on a Tuesday.
No, I know that. I know what you mean.
It's going to happen over many years.
Yeah.
And if with this thing about the photon belt, I mean it's twaddle. I mean the photon is light that comes from the sun. You don't go through a belt of photons. It's like, oh my gosh, we're going to a belt of photons. It's twaddle.
So what?
It's twaddle for the muddied uneducated, who it's not their fault they're not educated, but this is rubbish.
Okay, what about
I mean, I do have an interview with Nick Asheron, who explained it in a lot more succinct detail than I am. There was a lot of this stuff came through in the 1930s. There's an awful lot of twaddle came through at the end of the 1800s. All these mediums, and this is all. It's sort of a pre-run of the new age movement, which is total social engineering from the United States mind control factories.
Which was because the new age movement was also controlled.
The whole thing's controlled. One of the people I've been with for the last 3 or 4 days is a brilliant researcher called Kathy Morgan, and she explains this very well in her 2 or 3 interviews that she's now done. I mean, this is stuff which is on the open research. You can look at it. You can look at how the Doors are complete mind control. MK Ultra band. They recorded all the stuff in CIA studios. The whole thing's all been set up. Pop music. I mean, if you look at the Jimmy Savile thing with the BBC, it's screaming at you that this is control, and it's controlled using rituals and magical satanic cults, and the music is controlling you. And this is why they shut down all the pirates in Ireland, and it's why they shut all the other creative independent stations down, and it's why that Sky and the mind hacking's going on the BBC. It's total control.
Okay.
And they don't want independent thinking sources of information.
Right, and obviously on your journey and who you've bumped into, is there any kind of good news out there for?
The good news is stop going after what's obviously badly written scripts from a C movie from the 1930s. The Galactic Federation, and it's all bad stuff that wouldn't be used in a bad Flash Gordon remake. I mean, if you listen to all this stuff, the Commander so-and-so, it's twaddle.
I find that I do have a very, very big problem with this Federation of Light and Ashtar or something.
I was the Ashtar Command.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I mean, I was actually asked by a very nice person who I won't name a few days ago, Miles, surely you would know why the Legion of Light craft aren't landing, because what's jamming their craft from saving us all? It's because they're not there in the first place. It's bollocks. Excuse me, I'm very sorry for saying that.
Okay, so
but people are actually believing they're going to be. That's part of the whole thing, to actually disarm your common sense, to believe that it's the same God trick that they sell God to you, and Jesus Christ, the Savior, is going to save you if you just do everything we say, give us all your money, and build big edifices which we control you every Sunday on. And the same with rock music. You see the same kind of concerts, so they produce this rubbish where you get a couple of guys going, yeah, and bang, 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 and screaming, and everybody go, yeah, wow, it's rubbish.
Some people are into that.
Yeah, but if you listen to it, if you look at the beat rhythms, if you look at the actual content of the music, now there was some very good music produced by very articulate individuals, but just about all of this stuff traces back to MK Ultra.
Okay, so what about the likes of Dolores Cannon, who's a regressional hypnotherapist, and people like her?
I'm not going to comment on people who individuals like that.
Okay, so what about the talk about going from the 3D world to the 5D world? I'm just putting it out there.
We have all been built with that kind of perception, but something has shut us down and wants to keep us shut down. And as we wake up, as some of us wake up, there's this. Some people are trying to describe it in ways which are meaningful to people who, for the first time, are having strange or different experiences. It wasn't too long ago that you were burnt at the stake for thinking about this stuff. It wasn't too long ago, and we still are, sectioned and thrown into lunatic asylums as soon as you start saying, oh, I've had these strange experiences. You're off to the funny farm, because they've built in the symptoms of your awakening into the mental health acts, so that anybody who says I'm coming up with this sort of stuff, right, you are in there and we're going to shut your mind down.
Well, that's what happened to Lauren Holly from the band, the Fugees. She was actually sent away.
It happened to Amy Miller, and thank God in the recent months, there's even Frank Bruno has been used in a campaign where just because you're coming up with a couple of strange words and you're having a different experience, you're filled full of drugs, thrown in a lunatic asylum, and they shut the door. And that's what's been going on with people, and the secret courts are there in the UK. I don't know how bad it is in Ireland, but the secret courts are there to take your perceptive children away from you. And there's MI5 and other organizations have been doing it in the north, where they're targeting psychically aware and potentially psychically aware children who can wake up, see the multiple dimensions of existence, even travel there, and start connecting with the real outside world, as opposed to this fuzzy, numbed, dead world that we're currently living in. We are living in probably one of the darkest ages humanity has ever gone through.
At the moment, yeah.
At the moment. And the mind control zombie state broadcasters and the way they ridicule any kind of new thoughts in their science programs. I mean, science journalism has been a massive killer of new creative thinking in terms of science and those fields of intellectual research. And if you hear these kind of media scientists talking, the first thing they do is come up with a little giggle. They'll say something and do That's a key to their programming. They'll have a disingenuous laughter because they're laughing at you.
Yeah.
And they are going to do your mind in. And if you look at these particular individuals that they're selling science in the media, they treat you like utter brain candy zombies. And they are literally the new priesthood. The scientific community is a new priesthood. Anybody who comes up with anything different, for instance, like Sheldrake or a lot of these other thinking people, are vilified and attacked. And this whole thing is sold as some great myopic dream of, oh, the wonderful universe, and oh, this is amazing. And this kind of talk is killing intellectual discussion on anything at all that thinks outside the box.
Well, definitely. I mean, I had my own fair share of experiences in the last couple of weeks regarding the kind of sheeple mentality, and it's amazing how some people can be so opinionated with nothing to back up what they're saying, because they've been conditioned and programmed, and they're just churning out what they've been programmed to churn out.
Yes, because it's a dogma. It's not. Science is not science should be, okay, we've come together with some particular ideas and conclusions. This is our present understanding of what we think based on what we've researched and the evidence that we've got in our experimentation and our mathematical predictions and models that we've created, that this particular thing is the way we think is going on right now. It shouldn't be that is the way it's going on, and if you don't agree with us, you lose your funding and you're gone.
Yeah. Well, and that's common practice. That's happened throughout all different industries. Definitely when people start speaking up about what the rhetoric and dogma is. I'm going to pass you over to Steve Miles. We have a couple of questions just come in there.
Yeah, Miles, 3 questions for you. Question one is from one of the listeners on our own chat room, Agent. Agent's wondering, can you ask Miles if he has met any Anunnaki?
Well, what do you call an Anunnaki and how do you spell it? Some people spell it with 2 N's one way and 2 N's the other way. I can't tell him I have met an Anunnaki. I mean, I don't know what one looks like. The problem is that in order to retain your physical existence in the physical world we're living in, the mechanism that you have to do that in is a human body form, because physically speaking, the mathematics of the way that matter works here, the way you achieve a living entity, you can call it a soul or a spirit being or whatever, the way to action that, it has to be in a sort of bioform like us. So your Anunnaki or your whatever you want to call it is going to look like you.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point. So
okay,
they're going to be the same as us.
The problem, what they're doing is the research is all about what you put in that being. That's the whole thing. This is where the children are taken. This is where the biology and the bloodlines all are used for, because they have to use the type of body form that we are existing in. And in other words, our bodies are like radio receivers. If in order to act in the kind of physical, dense, time-space domain that we call the planet Earth, we have to walk around in these types of bodies. I mean, animals, everything around you are fundamentally, basically very similar. You got 2 eyes, you've got a backbone, you've got a heart, lungs. You either eat meat or you eat different forms of biological matter to survive, but whatever is the difference between that physical body and when that physical body is alive and when that physical body is dead, whatever the difference is there is what some people call a soul or a spirit or whatever you want to call that. The Anunnaki and the energetic creature known as an Anunnaki, or whatever other name you want to put on it, a first racer, second, third, or fifth racer, these sort of so-called structured different types of beings which some people have categorized into 5 races, walk around in bodies, and we call them human beings.
So the chances are, I mean, you or I, or even the person who asked the question, we could have all met these beings. We wouldn't know.
I think because we aren't, most people don't currently see the bioenergetic signature of what we call the aura, or the bioenergetic being which is in the so-called human frame. You won't notice it. If you're really astute, you might notice things in the eyes or the actions. You'll see something different that way. But really, you've got to start looking to the radiant energy which comes from a being.
Speaking of the radiant energy, is that to view that? Is that something that can be learned, or is there equipment that you can use?
No, you see, as soon as you start outsourcing your perception to equipment, you've immediately taken it from your own mind and outsourced it. Right. And this is one of the problems, that we're outsourcing all our talents, all our abilities. We're outsourcing our memories into a tape recorder or a chip or something. We're outsourcing our communications, our telepathic communications. We just don't use it because we've got a telephone, or we can use this kind of thing, whereas the higher switching on beings or people can translocate instantly. They can telepath instantly. They can. It's called remote viewing or remote audience, or seeing. You can pick these things up remotely. This is what the Sasquatch can do. They just say, right, we want to do this. We just bingo, do it. They're gone. They can slip through 8 dimensions. And what those dimensions are called, again, the term dimension is a very bad term because it's a scientific term applied incorrectly into our parlance. So we've had this, and if you read the books, the Anastasia books, The Ringing Cedars of Russia, it's explained there by this character called Anastasia, who demonstrates translocation, living with the energy of the bioenergetics from life forms in the animals and the plant kingdoms, and how that works with the Earth's bioenergetic field which we live in.
Yeah, we've just lost the ability. We just lost it to.
No, we aren't using it, and like anything else, you don't use.
You lose.
It becomes atrophied.
Yeah, you lose it. You lose it. You don't use it. You lose it.
But that's what I was going to ask, Miles. I was going to say, is this something that we can learn? How we can relearn?
Yes, by perceiving it and realizing. Sorry, I'm just got to switch off a render here. Yes, and that is why when the children or when other people start perceiving things, they're not locked up in lunatic asylums. There has been a total purge in humanity right across the civilized, the world, to burn out anybody who can do this. And that is proof, if there's ever proof you ever want to know, that we have got an enemy on this planet which is going to kill us and enslave us and wipe us out.
And is this enemy? What's your understanding of who they are?
They are the people who pursue the wise people of the village. They are the people who millennia ago murdered, burned, and tortured the wise people who knew, who could work with animals, who could pick up the animals. The animals don't communicate with us because they know that we're dumb. They're communicating with each other telepathically and psychically, and with all sorts of non-verbal and acoustic and other forms of communication. They don't bother with us because we're the stupid idiots.
Yeah.
They look down on us because we're so stupid.
Now tell us something, Miles. There's a few people out there that refer to these people as the powers that war rather than the powers to be. Now, obviously, they have an understanding that. Sorry,
I misheard that. Are you talking about the powers that war, as in war and peace?
No, as in W-E-R-E.
Okay, fine. That word. Yes. Well, if you look at everything across history, insofar that any of our history is actually valid, because it's always written by these people who killed off everybody.
Yeah.
They burned women. They got rid of. The first thing they did was women must be taken out of the equation because they're the people with the perception. They had to be crushed. That's why all of these godforsaken religions, and the whole lot of them are evil incarnate, in my opinion. The whole lot, because they disenfranchise people's intelligence, perception, their senses, and their ability to have a free thinking mind. And they have a vengeful God who's going to come down and burn you out and so forth. That's all mind control. It's all population control. And the people propagating that are the biggest enemy of all life on this planet.
And who are they?
I don't know who they are. I do not like putting names on people. Other people are saying that they are the so-called Nephilim, the sons and daughters of the gods, the so-called gods, the Anunnaki. And again, where you want to get that information from is from the sort of legends. And who the hell's written the legends? So we've got to be very careful. I don't like using language because it limits our ability to describe things, which is our verbal use of the spoken word.
Yeah, I've come across that before on some books I've read, where I won't say channeled, but let's just say certain entities have said that the language used on this planet is so limited, it's very hard to describe certain things.
Yes. And that's why our natural way of communication is visual telepathic communication, where you just think the concepts through and they just translate right through and they work. You've got it. We have to break our perception of when we see, like, a cup. Well, a cup, if you just want to describe a cup, it's a cup. You know it immediately. But if you have to tell somebody what a cup is, you've got about 2 chapters left of stuff. Especially if you look at the shopping channels, which are designed to mind decay your head even further.
Well, the whole idea is to stay away from the TV as much as you can. I mean, we've talked about that before on the show, time and time again. You know, people going in, you walk into a room and you say to somebody, you know, what's on the TV, and they say nothing, but yet they're still sitting there watching the TV.
Yes, well, it's not the TV's fault. It's the total wipeout of anything intelligent and creative on our media by the broadcasting authorities. And if you look at the controllers of broadcasting and what they've done, certainly in Ireland, the first thing they did was wipe out any creative version of creative and imaginative broadcasting that ever happened. The first thing they did was wipe everything out. Then the second thing they did was put their cronies in and stifle everything. And you all have to take your radio off a formatted computer, which told you what music to play at certain times of the day.
Yeah.
And Ireland had the most creative English language broadcasting in the 20th century. And they shut it down in 1988. There's a few still managed to survive. But and a lot of people remember that. They don't realize the creative, inventive, and fantastic, wonderfully creative radio and enthusiasm that was in Ireland until December 1988. And that was because it was waking up. It was a symptom of the Irish, the AER, the Irish, the Aryan, the brilliant intellect and talent within the beings which lived in these islands off the coast of Europe before in the last ice age, when the recovery started happening after the great whatever catastrophe it was. That's why the island, the Irish, had to be shut down. That's why it's been oppressed, and the blasted Irish have been yapping, moaning, and complaining about it ever since. Oh, it's the British. Oh, it's the Normans. Oh, it's this or it's that. Or it's the evil this or the evil that. They won't get off their backsides and actually wake up, because they're programmed not to wake up. And they're also programmed to maintain a constant state of conflict between one side of somebody else's argument perpetually.
Yeah, well, that's how you divide and conquer. It's the old classic, time and time again.
Yes.
Miles, we have a few questions come in, so I'll pass you off to Steve.
Yeah, Miles, we've a load of questions coming in. Some of them make sense to me, some don't, but I'm guessing the people who are asking know that they probably make sense to you. I'll just continue top to bottom. From Anon Wolf, they want to know, can you ask Miles, what is James Casbolt going to be talking about, and does he have any new information?
James Casbolt is definitely being operated, okay?
Yeah.
You cannot look at anything James Casbolt or Michael Prince says in direct view. You've got to look at it sideways, upside down, and bearing in mind something else. Okay?
Yeah.
So, Casbolt has been shafted, but he's wise enough to understand there's a reason for that, and he's biding his time. I've told him that what he's been doing on the internet is absolute stupidest thing he's ever done. He's brought... I've told him, if you keep putting an awful lot of effluent out there, up in the air, it's going to come down on top of you, and what are you going to be smelling like?
Yeah.
All right? Now, he's always been, I've been heavily criticised for even thinking about going to talk to him. Casbolt is not some kind of a god where everybody's got to obey what he says or ridicule him. Whoever's running Casbolt, you've got to think, who is running him? What's he, in whose interests is it that he is, whatever happens to what he's been doing? I'm not supporting him. I'm trying to report what he's doing.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough.
And that's about as much as I can do. And he's going to be in Basis 24, which is a year in the shooting. I've interviewed people who knew him before he went to the States, and I've interviewed him after he came back from the States.
Okay.
And whatever he's doing, it's affecting a lot of people, and it's affecting them badly.
Right, okay.
So somebody's running this.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, no problem. We have a number of questions in, so we'll just fly through them. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Miles, Andy, Wild Hunt Andy is wondering, can you ask Miles if he knows of Mark Passio? He's in Philadelphia in the USA, and he reckons that you and Mark Passio would get on like a house on fire.
Can I just jump in? Mark Passio is actually on the show in 2 weeks' time, OYM. So just to throw it in there.
Well, I don't know him, and if anybody wants to send me a link or something, I'll on the Basis thing on Facebook or whatever, that's the Basis project on Facebook, that's fine. Yeah.
I'll send you over a link, Miles. I'll give you. He's very good. He's very open-minded thinking. He's going to be on the show, as I say, in 2 weeks' time. Steve? Yeah,
26 is wondering, can Miles please elaborate on the base that's supposed to be in Peasmore?
Right. In a nutshell, 20 years ago, Lisa Williams, who's a brilliant researcher and very, very switched on, and also a multiple abductee, make that very clear, and also with very serious high-level connections with the German programs from World War II. We've got to bear that in mind very, very clearly. Came to me and I started researching a guy called Barry King's statements about a base in Berkshire. The number one thing is, the concept is that after World War II, or I think during World War II, there was transgenic and transhumanization tests and programs initiated in conjunction with the Russians, the Canadians, obviously the British, and the Americans in the Berkshire countryside. And under the nearest village above ground is Peasmore, and that is just north of the M4, just outside London, in Berkshire. It's north of a base called Greenham Common, and the next base above it would be the Harwell Rutherford Appleton Labs, which is basically where the civilian access to the underground complexes is. And then it also connects with RAF Welford and the Wantage bases. In other words, a string of bases, military bases, which are peppered around the M4 and the A303 in Berkshire and Wiltshire. In that base, according to Barry King, he is saying that they were manufacturing abduction creatures for use as false abductions. That's to say, MyLab abductions across the population. These were knocked off greys known as programmable generated life forms. In other words, they were programmable generated life forms.
AIs?
No, not quite, because these things were animated and would be controlled.
Yeah.
Okay. They didn't have self-aware intelligence.
Okay.
But they could switch dimension and go invisible very quickly, which is a characteristic that we can do, but we've forgotten or told we can't do it. So these creatures were then used in the abductions of people. The story is that they were used to abduct people, and the people would see these aliens, the freak-eyed, big round-eyed, grey aliens, and then bingo, they'd flip out and then they'd be taken. Because it seems that vast numbers of the population are being taken into these laboratories and labs for some kind of things done to them. Later reports had bases with thousands of people in a sort of a suspended state in cages, which they could easily break out of if they knew they could break out. And that evidence comes from Matt Todd and other people. And it's clear that we've got something which is hidden slightly out of dimension or physically in this reality, so-called reality, which are taking huge numbers of people. And this connects with the whole child abuse thing and the creatures which have gained control of the planet from us.
Do you reckon that this ties in with the likes of what Phil Schneider said and William Cooper?
Yes, Bill Cooper was talking about that sort of stuff in Dulce.
Yeah.
What people have always said, it's happening in America, doesn't matter. No, it isn't. It's happening right here. It's happening in Ireland. The whole point that Queen Elizabeth I set up in the north was she set up a colony of high rhesus negative rich people that they could basically control and cherry pick and mess about with at leisure. That's what the whole purpose of the northern section of Ireland was created for. It's basically being set up as a place where they can play around with everybody up there, do whatever they want to do with them, and it's a heavily mind-controlled, zoned zombie state where they've got these nutcase religions. You've got the where people are completely out of their heads with this God stuff, and they started to wake up in the 1960s. They started having a much higher level of spiritual awareness and open-mindedness, which is the true state they should be in. And they started to do that, and then they were hammered with this fake mind-controlled trouble situation run by the Illuminati to knock off and shut down and instill the bipolar conflict doctrine, which has been pushed down the collective so-called Irish psychological conditioning for many, many years. And don't let's feel that you're special in some regard here. This is for global, total mind shutdown and domination. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, well, we have a number of questions, and I'm aware that we also have a lot of other stuff to talk about, so we're going to kind of quick fire the questions at you.
I'll make it brief.
Yeah. All right, Steve, go ahead.
Yes, Anon Wolf on the chat room has agreed with everything you said in relation to the RH negative, that it's high in Northern Ireland. They've actually done some research themselves in relation to that particular blood group, and you're spot on. They say it is true according to DNA studies. Anyway, we'll continue on. Does Miles know, this one is from Chris, does Miles know how the abductees on the TV Stitch mockumentary Up are doing? Are they okay after the unfair hatchet job? I'm not sure what that is about.
I think it's about the Channel 4 fiasco, which wasn't a fiasco. It was a very successful, I think we're talking about Confessions of an Alien Abductee on Channel 4, which was aired almost a year ago now. It was an extremely successfully managed and extremely successfully put together program which did a number of things. The first thing it did was get the concept of alien abduction into a much higher and wider demographic. It secondly did not treat it seriously, because if it did, it would immediately switch off that demographic, i.e. ordinary everyday people. It thirdly successfully alerted and targeted the young sort of 10-year-old teenage male population. Certainly that's what I got. I'm not too sure about the female school children population. Fourthly, it then basically says if you are going to come out in public and talk about your alien abduction experience, we are going to screw you into the ground and wipe you out. Okay? Yeah. Now, Simon Parks, which should be on, was on that show, and he did very, very well to outflank them, but they still got a few shots in there. And if he is going to turn up, since it's now 8 o'clock, he should be coming online fairly soon. So we can possibly ask him that. That's good. Jesus. I've got Max Spears trying to contact me from the States, which I shouldn't be talking to, but he's just messaged. Max Spears is another James Casbolt, okay?
Right. Okay. Well, if you don't mind giving Max
Yeah, it's just he's... Okay. Sorry, we should have been we should have been talking about 4 hours ago, but so where am I in this answer?
You were just talking about Simon Parks and the fact that he dodged a few, but they
the one person who really got hit was Marie Kayali. She had her daughter was murdered. She has stood up to that. She has in recent weeks had hours and hours of restricted interrogation by the Metropolitan Police in London. She's had to sell her house, her flat. She's surviving. She's an Irish woman. She was abducted in Dublin when she was about 3. Her family had to leave Ireland for some reason. She's probably one of the finest women you'll ever met. She's got a head full of implants, as we detected. Her and Joanne were both found to be I won't go into those details. It's too long an answer.
Yeah, okay.
The third one was Chantel, a brilliant woman, brilliant high perceiver, clairaudient, viewant, I think that is. She can see and hear through other people's minds in live, living time what they're doing. That's a natural state that we should all be able to do, but it's impolite to do it without asking. That's I think, fair to say.
Yeah.
But she's a brilliant woman, and she is trying to get her life together as well. Okay?
No, that's fine. Okay, Steve, you have another couple there.
We do, yeah. Another question has come in, Miles, and it's, to ask you if you know James Gilliland and your comments on what he thinks.
I don't know him. I think he's done quite a lot of good work, but I think he's the guy who does the night vision stuff.
He does ESETI. He does the
stuff.
ESETI ranch in Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a good guy. You know, I don't like saying people are good bad guys, but he's fine. He's okay. Yeah.
I do watch James and his talks, and he does refer to them as the powers that war rather than the powers to be, because he does feel that they are getting desperate. Their backs against the wall because of the changes taking place.
Listen. They're not against the wall.
Right.
As soon as you say, "Oh, we're winning," you'll relax. Never ever believe that these guys are winning or we're winning against them.
Well, I'll tell you something else. We have talked about this before on the show with other guests, and the fact that we never relax. You know, you keep pushing until, you know, just because people, I know James might say that and other people might say that, and that's great, but until we actually see the proof, we will carry on doing what we're doing.
Yes.
You know, keep pushing.
You haven't won until we're through this.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Right now, some of us are only just beginning to wake up about it. Okay?
Yeah. No, totally agree. And we've said that before on the show. We keep pushing. We don't sit back in our laurels because somebody says on the internet that, you know, we're winning. Until we, you know, when we stop seeing chemtrails and we start seeing things sorting themselves out, then, you know, we won't even sit back. We'll keep on pushing. Now, there is going to be, you know, 15 minutes at the end of the show that we will talk about the solutions and the positive stuff that is
I agree with
taking
that.
place.
I'm very aware of the fact I'm doom gloom and oh my God.
I mean, on the chat facility, there's one or two people saying about the fear porn, but you know the way
they're right, absolutely, they're correct.
Well, the way I see it and the way Steve sees it is that it's information. If it affects you as fear, then maybe they shouldn't be listening to it. You know, I mean, we've been probably in this game long enough now that we just see it as information, and that's all it is. It's just information.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it. That's very good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, if you let it get to you emotionally, then it's going to affect you from a negative point of view. So you better off not listen. But then, how do you know what's going on if you don't listen? So you have to get to the stage where you have to disassociate yourself. Don't get emotional with it, and just see it for what it is. It's just information.
Let's put it this way: if you're standing in your house and it's on fire, there's no point standing there saying, "Oh God, it's on fire! It's on fire! It's on fire!" You know, react calmly and work out a solution.
Exactly, and that's really the way it should be with this information as well. But we will be talking about solutions at the end. But we have a couple of more questions there from Steve.
Yeah, this is a kind of a strange one. Well, I think it's a strange one, Miles, but maybe Andy doesn't. So Andy's one: would Miles go for an assassination of the Pope down in the sovereign territories of the Vatican?
No, I wouldn't. That's just being an idiot. I mean, what is the point in putting a bullet through anybody's head like that? These are not living creatures in the same sense that we think we are. If you prevent them from reincarnating, that they've usually find a way around that, or they're panicking. But again, no, you don't do that.
No. I mean, I think, I mean, there is an awful lot going on, and I do think, even if you look back over the last 5 years, and even over the last 2 years, we have seen a lot more coming out and being exposed. Now, is this part of the mind control, or is it actually happening where people are, like whistleblowers are coming out, there's more people being exposed, what's going on, there's less people getting away with things because it's getting out there in the open for people to see, and which is making more and more people wake up to what's going on and the corruption. Now, we're seeing this over here. Yes, but
you're all depending on the internet for this. Everybody has got to start immediately working out as a simple, effective, and guaranteed and secure way of communicating without using these electronic means. We're going through an AI system here, which is communicating and telepathic and accessing our minds through the Mind Hack program, which I've got which is on the basisproject.org. We've got that on the mind hacking. It's successfully mind hacked. You've got a situation where 2,000 years ago, the Western world was completely duped by one of the most sinister mind control, population control systems called Christianity.
Yeah.
Now that disenfranchised and disempowered people, it massacred millions, it destroyed anybody with creative thought unless you obeyed the rule from Rome. The Roman Empire is never gone. The Romans were very effective in taking control of Europe, and what they've done is to simply change their political strategy, and they've maintained that control. And whatever's in that control mechanism is what the problem is.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's start looking at solutions now and what we should really be doing. What in your opinion, or based on the experience that you have and the knowledge you've gained, what should we be really doing?
We need to start having small groups of people quietly who do not put any information on any form of electronic media anywhere as to where they're meeting. This is and where you meet, how you meet. You've got to be aware they're mind hacking everything, or planning to, or developing strategies to mind hack every thought that you have. You've got to create a means of masking your own thoughts, so you do not show that in your thought signature in your auric field, but they will see it and or have the capacity, or are generating the capacity, so they can literally read your thoughts automatically from these new types of artificial intelligence hyperspatial devices.
Okay, well,
once you then develop, you then got to develop a secure way of subspace secure communication, for want of a better word, and I'm using scientific electronic type terminology here.
But is there people out there that can teach people how to do this?
You have to find out yourself.
Which means probably surfing the internet.
You've got to do it yourself.
But you'd have to go searching the internet for that.
No. Once you do that, they know you're looking for it.
Yeah.
Do you not understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, but I mean, where are you going to find it?
You've got to do it in a different way.
Yeah, but hang on. If you say to somebody, right, I want you to bake a cake, but we're not going to give you the instructions of how to do it, then chances are you're not going to do it right. So the information has to be somewhere.
You go and get a book and read it. You don't go online and do it. Which means you're going to have the printing presses of making books.
Right.
Reading them.
Okay, so...
And writing things down like people used to do up until only 50 years ago, 30 years ago. Yeah.
Well, see, what I noticed as well, Miles, and I don't know whether you came across this, that it seems to be that it's more... Women tend to read more than men. And I think Steve will probably vouch for that, because Steve will tell you that he doesn't read. I'm a reader, but Steve's not a reader. And there's a lot of men who don't read. Which I don't know why that is in society, but it's...
Well, my understanding of it is, and I could be wrong, and yes, it's possible that Miles can be wrong, is that women have got for want of a better terminology, women are running with like a 32-bit processor in terms of linguistic understanding, which is why they always win arguments, because they can get their words out faster against men. Men are running with like an 8-bit processor when it comes to verbal... reading skills and understandings as a general rule, which is why women will read and interpret and be able to action linguistic processing 16 times faster or 8 times faster than the men will be, approximately.
Yeah. Well,
that's a general rule of thumb.
Well, that has to change, because I don't know why. See, as a guy who doesn't read, apart from, I know you have, kids, family, work and all that, but, I mean, why do you think you don't read? What is a lack of interest or...?
No, I as in books, I mean, if it was an article, I mean...
No, not an article, a book. If I give you a book, say, that's a good book, read that book.
Right. And if it was a book by Miles Johnston... No, seriously, if it was a book by Miles Johnston that I would be fascinated by the information, and I'm guessing it would be a big, thick, hardback book, would I read it? Probably not. And the only reason being is because I think a lot of men travel a lot of miles per work, or to work per day. And I mean, I love, as you know, I've got an education just driving in the car from home to work and back again. I do about a 400 miles trip on a weekly basis, and audiobooks, I think audiobooks are fascinating. I would rather listen to the information than actually read the information, because you just don't find the time to sit and read.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the reason for that is you've actually illustrated that, because when you were both trying to talk to each other, you were having a difficulty in formulating the words to actually answer what you was asked. So your capacity to actually verbalize and visualize ideas and send them and make them linear and focused and functional is being impaired. So it's not actually your ability to read. I don't want to talk about you personally, but it's not one's ability to read. It's your ability to actually focus your telepathic psychic skills to formulate an actual action.
There you go.
That's what's being blocked.
There you go. It's all your fault.
Until you're able to focus and generate that action using your focal intent, you're going to be running around in circles. You're never going to see anything properly.
Yeah, it's just one of these things I noticed that because I have a few female friends as well, and they would read more so than the guys I know, and it's just one of these things, and that's very strange. That seems to be more predominant with women than with men.
Yes, that's a very good point, but it also means that the women's awareness, that's the energy is changing. That's also the whole point about what people are talking about, the energies and about the galactic sun and all that sort of stuff. There is a change for the women should become relatively more dominant, but that's one of the things that the powers that be want to stop. They've always wanted to stop this process.
Well, again, I mean, we are in a universe of duality, and one of the things from a spiritual point of view, left brain, right brain, and all that, and the left brain being the analytical, the logical, and the right brain being the creative, intuitive. And it's we're going in more, apparently what I've read anyway, we're going into more of a female energy from a planetary point of view, and maybe that's what the change is that's taking place.
I mean, this is again the use of language to describe sort of things like this. That's why the women were suppressed. But the women themselves are beginning to realize that they've got to change the way they think. Because if they continue in the way that they have been going, in the thought process that they have been going, you'll never get anything done. They'll be yapping and arguing about it all day long. That's why men had to do things. It was the only way you'd get a house built. The women would have lots more complicated ideas, but they never formulate them long enough to actually get the thing done. Yeah,
well, that's why probably we have.
That is something that I've learned from women, that they're realizing that they've got to change got a bit of higher processing in terms of the verbalization. Yeah. They've got to actually start doing their own books and start doing that formulation of focused intent correctly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, what else is happening from your point of view, from a positive point of view?
Well, I'm holding a conference, the 20th anniversary of the Basis Project. We're holding a conference at Marlborough College on the 8th, 9th and 10th of August. We're starting at 6 o'clock on Friday with the wonderful Sarah Goodley doing her show. And I think you've heard some of her stuff before. She's a great woman, fantastic woman. And then depending on the weather, we're going to have a sky watch with night vision stuff. David Griffin's coming down with some night vision stuff. My Webman is coming with his night vision stuff. We're going to assemble at the Barge Inn on Friday night, and hopefully there'll be a clear night. We'll see lots of UFOs and Perseid meteors and stuff like that. And then we're having the main conference. Mary Rodwell's going to be there giving her 3 hours to deliver her iconic presentation on the new humans, the way that they are developing, the young children developing, the DNA is changing. And then David Griffin, primarily on the Friday, there'll be some crop circle stuff on the Friday, with Win Keats showing his video, which he was prevented from showing the entities, the big 7 or 8 foot tall shadow entities, which materialized, which he has on film. It's very dark film, so we have to have a really good projector and dark so we can see that properly for him. He was literally told to leave the stage 3 years ago when he had that material. I'm going to give him the stage to show that material. David Griffin will then be there talking primarily major thing on the update and the background to the black goo, and that will be a major thing on the Sunday. And that's that in a nutshell. And tickets and stuff will be available to purchase from the Basis Project website, hopefully by the end of the week.
Well, what we'll do is we'll get all your details just at the end of the show. From a bigger perspective, from a global perspective, what you see happening in a positive way, is there any changes taking place that we can look at and go, yeah, well, obviously there is something going on?
There's something going on, and there's been something going on for years. David Icke's been telling us, I forget his name. We've been told this ad nauseum, but it's like people at the churches. We get hellfire and damnation yelled at us every Sunday, and we walk out. Well, that was a good session, and do absolutely nothing about it. Yeah. I know that Ian Crane's got an AV5 coming up, but he got frustrated with the Alternative View conferences because he had the same people come in every time for each conference. He would give them all the information to just sit back there, oh yeah, right, and walk out not doing anything. Yeah. We've got to form small groups, quietly talking amongst ourselves, write things down, and pass it quietly between each other to start a revolution if we're going to survive this. If we don't, we're not going to survive. The powers that be are going to take us out.
Well, the fact that if you see all these countries around Europe rioting, and I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but they're actually affected by what's going on, and you want to make a change. And obviously in Ireland we have quite a lot of apathy. And I don't know whether that's down to the fluoride. Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know whether it's down to the fluoride in the water, which is obviously affecting people. But again, part of the whole this whole agenda, the whole idea is to wake people up to what's going on. Now, I'm involved with a group of people, and there's a few people, in the group that are awake, and other people are conditioned. And we had an issue where we had an individual come in, and she was supposed to be a certain individual, a spiritual person, you could say. And it turned out that, it's got to the stage where, I don't know, it's nearly destroyed the group.
That's it. That's an infiltration.
Well, I don't even know whether she might have been aware of it. It could be.
You may not be aware of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't. That's one of the problems.
But I kind of clocked it straight away. And it's now kind of picking up the pieces and moving on. But we've heard that she has decided to, not come back, which is going to be a blessing in disguise. But it's just the way that the individual actually had done things that it's I don't know, complete chaos basically. Complete destruction of.
It's very good. They work out your profiles, and then just to send somebody in there to press the relevant buttons, and then everybody has got their buttons, and if they're pressed, you react unconsciously, and you'll fly off the handle. You'll start hating somebody, or you'll start having whatever the personality profiles are.
Yeah,
they'll be worked out. The infiltrator will go in there, and bingo.
Yeah.
So it just presses buttons and it just blows up like.
Yeah, and I've seen this time and time again. So
yes.
I'd say to the listeners, just if you are in a group of people, just be careful. If somebody comes in and starts rattling the cages or approaches things in a negative way, just be on your guard, because they're probably the person who wants to split up the group, and each person will be targeted one by one. Whoever,
another one of the signatures to look out for is somebody who likes to, yes, I'll do that, and then you find it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll do that. Oh, I'll whatever. I've got the money. Yes, we'll do this. I've seen. That's another way that infiltrators will destroy a group.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've seen happen as well in other groups is that they will find out the person's background, and then they will say, "Oh, that happened to me in my life," and they will align themselves, because now there's a click between them two people.
Yeah.
And then now they have an ally. So if there is an argument, the ally jumps in with them to help protect them, because they have this click. I mean, it's very clever how it's done.
A situation will be created where you'll feel vulnerable, and then this other person protects you.
Yeah, and sometimes these people are being played, and they don't realise they're being played.
Yeah.
It is very clever how they do it. I have to say that. It's
an old trick. It's been going on for a very long time, and it's as old as the hills.
Definitely. You have a question there from Miles?
Yeah, I just have one last question. And Andy Pandy Miles is wondering, when will more information be released from John Irwin?
John Irwin's subject to getting his book back out. He's literally on top of the lawyers, because he's had his book stolen off him twice, if not 3 times. He's now got the book back, and he can now republish it. We're trying to get some artwork for that done so that he can publish it, because his publishers have suddenly realized, hey, there's people want to read this thing, because I won't go into the details. So the main thing is that a recording has been made of some of his secrets, which are to be withheld until he can get a contract to get this properly, securely out there, and not on some stupid YouTube film which 20 people or 50,000 people watch, or maybe 300,000 people see. But it's got to be done in such a way that he is targeting the number 2s in the process of what's going on, because they think that they're safe, that they're okay. They action all these things, and the second and third degrees, as he calls them, will all go and do all this and get bumped off, or whatever's going to happen to them will happen to them. Some of them will think they're going to be richly rewarded and all sorts of things, but ultimately they're all screwed.
Yeah.
And it's the second and third degrees which empower the first degrees.
Yeah.
And until he has to communicate with the second degrees, so it disempowers the first degrees, and then the whole pyramid collapses.
Well, the way I did describe the one way, like what you're saying there, in a book I read over here, I forget the name, it's actually advertised on front of OYM, funny enough, by the Common Law Society, and they said that it's like this. Imagine you have a plantation and you have slaves. Now, the slaves that are in the house are higher level slave, and the slaves that are in the plantation are lower level. So the boss of the plantation doesn't actually police the slaves out in the fields. He will police the slaves in the house and reward them for their actions, and in turn the slaves in the house will police the slaves in the plantation. So he doesn't have to get involved with the riffraff out in the field. He just has to make sure that if the slaves in the house don't do what they're told, they'll be kicked out in the field. So it's in their interest to make sure they do what they're told.
Yes.
That's kind of, I know it's kind of, but it's a kind of, for me, that's a very good analogy. So, it's like, you have the police or the Garda. They're told by the powers to be what to do. And if they don't do what they're told, they'll end up getting sacked, not knowing that actually what they're doing is going against what should be done.
Yeah.
So
it applies to everything, including the people who put the drugs in your arm in the hospitals and God knows what else.
Yeah. Do you feel that in the last 5 years, or at least in the last couple of years, that there has been more of an awakening? I mean, from what's going on in the world globally, surely you have to say that people are beginning to wake up and say, not enough, that's the end of, no more.
No, they're not doing anything about it.
But even with all these uprisings in different countries...
No, a lot of those uprisings, most of the Arab Spring is all CIA, all New World Order stuff. All those countries were taken out by the New World Order because they weren't conforming to the banking systems and the control of the elite. Every single one of them. Syria, any independent countries which are standing up for themselves are all taken out. Some of them have been able to last a little bit longer. I mean, this Russian game that we're playing at the moment is another farce. It's playing in the club. Crimea has always been Russia, run Russia. The Russians have always needed that warm water port to survive, and anybody who thinks that they can go into spread democracy from the EU into the Crimea and into Ukraine is disingenuous.
So do you think Putin is just another part of the same coin? Well,
he is, but he's also protecting his country's interests.
Yeah.
Russia is landlocked by ice for a vast amount of its time, and they require those warm water ports.
Yeah.
And if you heard of the charge of the Light Brigade?
Yeah.
I mean, when was that? That was in Crimea. That was the Hungarian and British empires fighting themselves out in Russia.
Yeah.
The Austro-Hungarian Empire, which I mean, this is Russia is not going to mess about with anybody taking away its warm water ports.
So what's
going to happen?
Okay, so what do you think the story is? Just adding on top of that with the MH370 plane missing.
Clearly, when you've got so much disinformation and a whole lot of hooey, and the way the BBC and Sky drank the propaganda on this and spewed utter rubbish out about this plane, about it flying and not flying, and it drained us all for ages. Now that they've actually discovered maybe something 1,500 miles north, I think, suddenly nobody's talking about this thing because they've played their disinformation and they've been caught red-handed. I subscribe to the probability that there was a industrial espionage involved in this, involving very secret quantum leap in technology, satellite surveillance type technology, which was patented to a bunch of Chinese who were stuck on that plane and then bumped off so that the patent could lapse to a Rothschild source.
So you think that was the game?
I believe that is the game, but I believe that those Chinese did own that patent. They were being played, and basically, hey, you go on a holiday all together, and they were taken out. The plane was taken down to the U.S. airbase in the Indian Ocean. Anybody in that was taken out, dead, asphyxiated. They're all gone, and more than likely the plane was then flown and then crashed into that zone. Again, the lack of bodies will be a problem, but
yeah, just say sharks or something.
Yeah, whatever. And if, or you know, I would subscribe to that. That seems to be happening because Lufthansa would not have any of that remote emergency control technology in their aircraft, whereas all Boeings have it. I understand. And I'm sure there's somebody else who's got more technical knowledge be able to correct me on that. But that the plane was industrial espionage. That technology, that satellite technology, would have prevented the powers that be from bugging every damn thing you're doing, everything, including this conversation, obviously. But they don't need to bug the conversation; they just need to listen to it online.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Well, we are using Skype as well, so
yeah. Well, yes. Well, I think this great journalist is 100 years old, Simon Pinter. And I've probably got the name wrong. He described his great journalist in the true spirit of journalism. You know, you get a lead, publish it. That's get it out there.
Yeah.
MI5 bugged every conversation he had. The Russians bugged every conversation he had at this particular restaurant. But they didn't do anything about it because then he would then know he was being bugged.
Yeah.
That's unquote the man himself who's 100 years old.
That's right.
You know,
you have to get the information out there.
We need great publishing houses in the good style of breaking news, of publishing it and be damned. We need a broadcast facility from Ireland, publishing and be damned. Get it out there. And then the democracies can be educated and can have informed decisions and not be milk-sopped into the way that things are at the moment.
But isn't that what the Sovereign Independent tried to do and the One World Chronicles?
No, but the Sovereign Independent played the game. These guys don't play the game. They give you a game and then you play it. Brian, this guy Garish, what's his name? A complete idiot. You have even the term sovereign independent and all that. You're using a whole rasp of game played stuff that's out there for you to play that game. They don't play the game. They just come along and blow your head off.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And what would be your suggestion? So you want to get a newspaper, or will you say you get a publishing house?
There has to be a completely independent source of securely delivered and independently delivered transmission of creative, properly investigated journalistic transmission news.
But every time they try that, somebody infiltrates it and just destroys it.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, it was called pirate radio in Ireland initially, but it used to be was meant to be Sky News. Because whenever you hate Murdoch, everybody hates Murdoch. But look at this: 99% of the information in the British Isles comes from one source. It's the BBC.
Yeah. RTE
simply, I've got a great friend who actually created the news in RTE. I forget. I was with. Yes, I think it's Kathy Morgan's cousin, and Kathy Morgan. Her I think it's Kathy, was her relative, her father-in-law ages ago was the guy who wrote the book, so to speak, in RTE on how to deliver the news. We've got to have a free and independent source of information where people can question and argue and attain the facts. Obviously, the intelligence agencies, which are now all bought and paid for by the industrial military complex.
Yeah.
They're not fighting for nations. They're doing industrial espionage for corporations.
Yeah.
And that, so they need exposed. And the only way to do that is on a secure form of independent transmission. And they will label that as pirate. But it's got to be delivered, and people have got to get that information in whatever means that it can be developed securely.
I have to say, I mean, I've been quite impressed with what Brian has been doing on UK Column.
Yes,
and
but
the
he's
information.
playing the game. It's rubbish. It's leading you. It's managed opposition.
Yeah, but
it's giving you a false dawn, a false hope.
Well, again, we all have to keep pushing, regardless.
Yes,
you know.
I agree. You do have to keep pushing, but what is it actually achieving? It's achieving nothing. It's achieving what Alternative View 5 is being set up. I'm shocked to hear Ian's got this conference coming, and very few speakers. Except Brian Gerrish is going to stand up on stage again like he's done before, have a drip wet presentation about how unfortunate and awful things are, and how he's been betrayed by the BBC or something. Well, they didn't want me to speak, and isn't this terrible? It's just limp-wristed garbage. No action is happening. We need to take action. Well, and in many respects, my conference, which is going to be on August the 8th, 9th, and 10th, I don't want that to be something similar, just another, we're all going to die, or this is a wonderful thing, and then people leave and do nothing.
No, well, we will get you details, and we'll put it out there. We have a few minutes. Steve, you got quick fire questions for Miles there, and then we'll have to wrap it up.
I have one question for Miles, and it's from Jerry. Miles, Jerry's wondering, can you ask Miles how to deal with the reality of remote neural monitoring?
Well, it's happening, so give them a headache.
How do we do that?
You give them a headache. They're going to look inside your head. You give them one hell of a headache back. And you can do that by telling them to feck off in a big way.
Right.
That's how you do it. And it works.
You know what? I think we're going to have to get a list of books off you. I don't know how we're going to get them off you without using the technology, but we'll have to get a list of books off you.
You can write a letter.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we'll have to get your details, and they'll probably steam the letter out halfway.
Well, they don't need to steam it; they can read it. But start giving them. Write letters to people in the post.
We'll have to. I think we'll have to meet up, Miles, sometime and have a chat and have a drink.
Well, I need my good colleague Chris Gaffney who we met earlier at Christmas time, is a good man from the Irish UFO Research Centre from all those years ago, has said, mind you'll have to come over. So
yeah, we're going to have to organise a get-together.
Listen, I'll have to take off some of this weight. I've been eating these award-winning breakfasts for too long. I'm getting...
You're going to have to, I mean, if your show's going to come up, you're going to have to look fit, Miles,
Yeah, well, I need to do that, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'm my own worst critic.
Well, sometimes that's the best thing, because then you do put the work in, Okay, Miles, so listen, we've reached that time. Thanks a lot for coming on. Much appreciated for filling in there. We'll be touching base with Tony and Simon another time.
Well, Simon did a very good presentation at Probe last week, and he had a very late night, up till 2 o'clock, people asking him questions. He's smart, understands what's going on, and... there's people criticising things, but I mean, he's good at what he's doing and is aware of what he's doing.
No, I mean, we've had Simon on the show, and it was a great show when we did get him on, and he had some sterling information from him, so we hope to get him on again. But
his history of British intelligence and what's going on there is fascinating, and it's a fascinating story and what's involved and how they work. It's a real James Bond thing. It's a technical thing, what they do and how they do it and what's involved. And the Irish intelligence services, some fine people I've met, although I think they didn't want me to think I knew it, that they really were. But people have to do their job and find out what's going on, and they need to defend their damn countries and not let it slip into oblivion.
Exactly. Okay, Miles, listen, and by the way, very quickly, do you know when John Irwin's video or documentary might be released?
That's subject to contract, and at the moment, when you're dealing with contracts, that could be God knows when.
Sure, we keep
as
people
a safety mechanism, there is the basis 33 or whatever, 34. That's being done, and that's just a safety thing. If something happens, it'll go. The concepts which Ehrman is talking about are so extreme that most people won't understand the consequences of what he's talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That's one of the problems.
I've spoken to John on numerous occasions privately, and some of the stuff is going to blow people's mind, depending on the level of knowledge you have on the system.
Yes.
But even then, there's a lot to take in. Oh, wait, Miles, listen, I'm going to pass you over to Steve.
Great.
Thanks a lot for coming on. Steve, you want to go through all the bits and pieces with Miles?
Yeah, Miles, again, as Alan said, thanks for coming on and filling in. It's been educational, informative as usual. But for anyone who wants to know more about Miles Johnston and what he's up to, can you just throw out your web address there and the YouTube channel as well?
It's now live, and it's thebasisproject.org. And the YouTube channel is Megawatts 1066, but I think the fastest way to find it is just put the Basis Project.
Right, so just
and
the Basis.
I also was with the AMASH with the lovely Joanne for 2 years. She's got a bit of a conference, but she and others are on a list which are very serious. That's what Casbolt was published, which came from a certain research group in London, and it's not nice what's involved there, and I would advise extreme caution on that.
Okay, I'm guessing all those links can be found on your own website as well, yeah?
Yeah, thebasisproject.org is the new website, and the conference is there in the events section, and that's on the 8th, 9th and 10th of August at Marlborough College in Marlborough, Wiltshire, the home of the crop circles, and there'll be a night watch and presentations by Mary Rodwell on the New Human and David Griffin on the Black Goo, amongst others.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, Miles, listen, we're going to let you go straight away, and we won't do a musical break because we have 10 minutes left. So what we'll do is we'll just, because I know you're working on video stuff, rendering and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have interviewed James Casbolt. It's been, a lot of people have not wanted me to do this. It's part of Basis 24, which is to wind up what happened to Casbolt before he went out to the States and what happened there and what happened came back. I was at the Super Soldier Summit this time last year. I'll be at it again in May, speaking in Las Vegas at the Super Soldier Summit, which is organized by Lorien Fenton. There was a mass abduction there, allegedly. A lot of things happened. One of the attendees since got murdered, and they are bumping people off now. They are bumping people off. Environmentalists are being taken at airports and bumped off. My sources tell me that they're taken aside by G4 security and they're never seen again. There is an aggressive attack now on the UFO community people, and 4 people are dead now this year. People are being taken out. We are now under attack. We've got to start communicating offline, and we're going to have to do this if we're going to survive, and that's it. And we
have to get groups together. Okay, Miles, I'll let you go, and we've a few things to finish up with. But thanks again for coming on, and take care of yourself, okay? Stay safe.
Cheers.
Thanks, Miles.
Take care. Bye-bye. Right, okay, that's brilliant. Thanks a lot for Miles for coming on. Loads of information there. I mean, if we can possibly form groups of open-minded people, it's going to be very difficult to do because, everybody's on a different path of knowledge and different level of understanding. And, if you want to find out how open-minded somebody is, challenge their belief system. And that's how you know. And if they have an open mind, they'll say, if you give them a subject and say, do you believe the world is controlled by a group of men? Just something like that. And they go, well, I don't know enough about it, the comment. Then they've got an open mind and they're confident with their intellect. But if they start saying, well, it's a load of, twaddle, yeah, famous. If they start saying it's a load of twaddle, then that means that, and then you have to say, well, okay, if that's your opinion, if it's an opinion, then okay, that's only your opinion, doesn't mean you're right. But if that's your, if that's your opinion and it's backed up by research, can you show me the research you've done? Because I have research here that says I'm right. And that's basically how you do it. And the issues that I come across with individuals about this regarding the sheeple approach, they were supposed to be open-minded, and but they turned out that they were opinionated, and there was an ego involved there as well. And well, when you have ego and somebody who's opinionated with no research done and they just want to give their opinion, you just have to walk away from these people. There's no point arguing with them. You might as well argue with your dog or your cat, because that's the same kind of, there'll be no joy there. You won't be able to convince them either way, because they see the world the way they see it. And they've been conditioned and they have their belief system. And a lot of people will give their opinion based on their belief system. That's what I see. And then what you have to say is, right, okay, that doesn't mean you're right. It just means that that's your opinion based on what you believe. Have you checked out this, this and this? And they might say, no, I'll check it out. And they'll say, no, that's all conspiracy. And if they do that, then you just have to close the door. It's to find a group of people that has an open mind. Now, we have Mark Pazio coming on in 2 weeks' time. And we talk about our fluid belief system. And Mark has his own version of that. And I do believe, I did watch one show with Mark, and I was very impressed with what he said. And he basically was saying what we were saying about having an open mind. Taking the ego out of the belief system. Taking the ego out and just having an open mind to everything. And not being afraid to say, I don't know. Because people who, people perceive not knowing something as a weakness. A lot of people do. And rather than say, I don't know, they will cover it up by, oh yeah, that's a load of twaddle. And this is the problem with human beings. If they lack confidence in the intellect, they'll cover it up. Where ideally you want people to say, well, I don't know enough about it, tell me more. So, it's going to be a hard one trying to get a group of people together to do that. But anyway, next week we have Solaris Blue Raven on. She was affected. She was actually one of Miles's bases. He did the bases report on Solaris Blue Raven. And she was attacked like a TI, and she was dealing with synthetic telepathy. So we've asked Solaris Blue Raven to come on because she said she found a way to deal with it in a kind of that it doesn't affect her. But she was going through life and having a great life and doing great things, and all of a sudden, bang, things start happening to her. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. But good information for Miles, yeah?
Sorry, I was just typing there. And as I can't multitask, I had to concentrate. As Miles said, I've got one brain cell.
One brain cell. You just don't read, but you like audiobooks,
Yeah, and that's why when I'm typing, you see, even when I'm typing on the chat room there, I like to put all my energy into it, which is why my spelling is actually, I thought I spelled internet wrong. I didn't. I got it right. As Chris was just saying there, maybe we should have a notice board and for people to put their contact details on. But that kind of goes against the grain because I think. Media like OYM and other such outlets, I'm sure they're on a watch list somewhere. So if people were to start, putting up their details on a list or a forum, well, then those names would just go onto a list somewhere. So they'd be getting watched as well.
Yeah. So again, we have to do everything that doesn't involve pen and paper, and it's very hard, unless we have carrier pigeons or something like that. We're going to be kind of...
They'd intercept your carrier pigeon.
They probably would end up eating it or something,
Although I do actually agree with one thing that Miles says, and I never, ever thought I would. But, going back to the old letter, not only just kind of putting the stamp on it and posting it to people, but, remember years ago they used to have the seal.
Yeah.
And you'd get your the candle and you'd put your mark or your seal. So if it was tampered with, you'd know.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe we should do stuff like that.
Maybe they'll find a way to do it. I don't know. They're probably getting around it. Right, during the week, as I say, I'm going to try and do this video with the light bulbs, so you can see the light bulbs and the power it's taking and the power unit that I'm using. The track power, and then if you have any questions next week or during the week, email us. And let us all use CB radio. Yeah, good thing. Yeah, CB radio. Although they can listen in on CB as well as amateur radio as well. But I think you're in the right direction. Talking about CB radio, definitely. I think we might have to go back to that.
Yeah, just to let Jerry know as well, yes, the interview next week will be live, as always.
Yeah, that's the plan, as always. We always plan to get guests on and have them live, and that's really it. Now, by the way, we're going to have Paul O'Connor on, I'm just watching the time, who's a remote viewer, and he said to me that he's going to try, now we'll see what we can do, but he's going to try do a live remote viewing, right, live on air. That's the plan. Now, whether we do it or not, or whether he can do it, then we'll see what we can do. But that's going to be interesting as a remote viewer as well. So loads of good guests coming up, and we're going to have more coming on, no doubt, with more people coming on. So stay tuned with OYM. Don't forget, T-shirts are available. Help support us. If you can't afford a few quid,
no, the OYM T-shirts are available.
Yeah,
you said our T-shirts. It's like we wear them and then we sell them after the show. If you actually, that's not a bad idea. If anyone wants one of my T-shirts, send us a PM.
Like a man order.
It'll be a bit of a man order at mine, alright.
Okay, coming up next is People Internet Radio with Vin. I think. Do we know if Vin has a guest?
Yes, we do. He's going to have Billy McGuire and the one and only Harry.
Okay, no problem at all. All right, well, listen, everyone take care, safe week, and if you have any news, email it into us. As usual, take care, play it safe. This is Alan James saying good night.
Okay, and it's good night for me as well. Stay tuned if you're on Airstream. It's I think Vin is going to be taking over Airstream at 9 p.m, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so for myself, Stephen George, have a great week, and we'll do it again next week. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.
Open your mind.